What if I told you your trading results, every gain, every loss, every breakdown, aren't random? They're not due to luck, bad fills, or just a red day. They are the inevitable outcome of a system. That system is you. Your routines, your beliefs, your risk parameters, your reactions, your emotional patterns. Like a machine outputting widgets, your P&L is simply a report card for a structure you likely don't even realize is running 24/7 behind your decisions. Donella Meadows opened the world's eyes to something simple and powerful. Systems produce the behaviors they are designed to produce. Not necessarily the behavior you want, but the one the structure leads to. Think about that. If you keep breaking rules, overtrading, hesitating, blowing up after a winning streak, it's not a discipline issue. It's a structural issue. You built a system, by default or design, that produces those outcomes. Traders often obsess over setups, the entry trigger, the moving average crossover, the tape read. But you've probably already noticed, those alone don't change your consistency, because the real battle isn't on the screen. It's in the underlying systems, your risk engine, your feedback loop, your emotional recovery system, your decision framework. When Kiev worked with high-level hedge fund traders, he wasn't giving them better indicators. He was observing their mental systems, the chain reaction of behaviors under stress. And when performance broke down, the first question wasn't, what trade did you take? It was, what system are you operating from? If you're not getting the outcomes you want, stop blaming yourself. Blame the system, and then rebuild it. Let's break it down. Imagine a trader who checks P&L every 5 minutes. What system is he running? One where external validation overrides process commitment. He might say, I just want to be aware. But behavior reveals the blueprint, a reactive loop tied to dopamine and short-term security. That system will generate premature exits, re-entries out of FOMO, and emotional roller coasters. No surprise there. The structure guarantees the result. Or think about risk. You risk 2% per trade, but size up to 10% after 3 wins. What system are you really running? One that reinforces overconfidence, that creates fragility. That kind of structure rewards hot streaks and punishes learning. It's not discipline that fails, it's the system design. Systems thinking means asking, what rules, incentives, delays, and feedbacks are creating this behavior? Because your actions are predictable once you understand the system. And the good news? You can redesign the system, but not until you see it. This is where Meadows' framework becomes liberating. You are not a failure. You are a system producing exactly what you're built to produce. If you want different results, build a different system. Kiev's traders did this through scripting behavior. They created routines, morning checklists, visualization, debrief protocols, not because they're nice to have, but because those structures hardwire better outputs. The system forces performance, not the willpower. That's why journaling matters. Not to vent, but to surface invisible rules. To expose how your current system works. And then, like an engineer, revise the model. A flawed system, once diagnosed, becomes upgradable. A system left in the dark, it keeps printing losses like a broken copier. Here's the kicker. You don't rise to the level of your potential. You fall to the level of your systems. That's not motivational fluff. That's physics. That's structure. That's why elite traders obsess over routine, review, and rules. It's not rigidity. It's design. You might be thinking, okay, so how do I redesign my system? The answer is this entire series. Every part will give you another lever. But for now, internalize this. You are the output of systems, and you have the power to architect new ones. Stop reacting to outcomes. Start redesigning the source code. And here's where it gets even deeper. Systems are not just linear cause-effect machines. They have layers, stocks, flows, delays, feedback loops. Meadows showed that a change in just one lever, a delay in feedback, or a reinforcing loop left unchecked, can create wildly different behaviors. Your trading system is no different. Think about hesitation. You say you're working on your execution, but really, hesitation is a symptom of a delay in emotional feedback. You fear regret. You overanalyze. Your internal system is running on risk avoidance, not process trust. So what's the fix? You don't yell at yourself to just click the button. You redesign the feedback loop. Build in mental rehearsal, pre-trade scripting, post-trade rewards for following the plan. You create new loops, and the same goes for overtrading. If your day starts aimlessly, without a threshold for setups, without structure, your system has no constraint. so it'll just expand like gas in a vacuum. That's not personal weakness. That's entropy. That's the law of open systems. Unless there's a structure, behavior will decay into chaos. What Meadows and Kiev are both saying, across time and context, is that behavior isn't mysterious. It's mechanical, spiritual maybe, but mechanical. You don't fix a trader, you rewire the system. And sometimes the fastest fix isn't mindset, it's mechanics. Ask yourself, what am I reinforcing right now? If you reward yourself for breaking the rules, like a big gain on a revenge trade, your system is learning a perverse lesson. You just trained the wrong loop. So how do you fix it? Delay gratification, log it, journal the actual damage, refuse to reward bad structure. This is system tuning at the psychological level, and Meadows warned about this. Systems resist change. They have resilience, often to their own detriment. That's why traders repeat bad habits even after breakthroughs. The system pulls you back to its original form. So to truly evolve, you must push consistently. Inject new rules, rituals, reminders, not once, but daily. Kiev's performers made this their lifestyle. The goal is not to become a trading robot, it's to become a trading architect. Your behavior is programmable, and every result you hate, it's a feature, not a bug, of the system you're currently running. This is the beginning of transformation. This is where you start to trade like a systems thinker, not just with logic, but with structure, self-awareness, and design. Now ask yourself again, what system are you running? Have you ever broken your trading plan because of a red candle? That's not impulse, it's feedback. What you felt was a feedback loop, a system response to a perceived threat. The systems in your brain are not linear, they are dynamic. And in trading, this dynamic structure of feedback governs everything, from how you manage risk to how you respond to a losing streak. Meadows emphasized the power of feedback loops. There are two kinds: reinforcing, positive loops, and balancing, negative loops. Reinforcing loops amplify a direction, like greed turning into overtrading. Balancing loops try to stabilize, like fear making you cut a winner short. When you grasp this, you realize your emotions aren't flaws. They're signals from these loops in action. Let's say you have 3 red trades in a row. That's input. Your system processes it. Emotion arises. Your next trade? Likely conservative, maybe skipped. That's the loop in motion. Now imagine you win 3 trades. Suddenly, you risk more, become overconfident, even reckless. The reinforcing loop is now dominant. But here's the kicker. These loops aren't random. They're shaped by beliefs. Ari Kiev wrote extensively about how belief systems, especially under stress, amplify or suppress performance. His top traders didn't avoid emotion. They trained their feedback response. That's key. You don't stop emotion. You tune the loop. This is why consistent journaling matters. Not just to record trades, but to detect your feedback cycles. Are you punishing yourself after losses by forcing a win? Are you rewarding yourself too much after a big day and loosening your structure? Every emotional reaction is a feedback loop operating on old rules. If you don't update those rules, the system will keep triggering you in the same ways. Here's where this becomes incredibly practical. You can build new loops. Meadows talked about delays, gaps between action and result. In trading, this is crucial. There's a delay between executing your system and seeing payoff. If you expect instant validation, you'll disrupt the loop. This is why traders sabotage. The delay freaks them out. But top performers like those Kiev coached understood. Process precedes results. They created rituals and review loops to bridge the delay. That's structure replacing chaos. Say you get stopped out on a perfect A+ setup. The system says, that was right. The emotion says, I'm stupid. If you don't intervene, that loop reprograms your belief system. One loss rewrites your edge. But if you run a structured feedback loop where every trade is reviewed for process, not P&L, you preserve the loop's integrity. One of Kiev's traders once said, every trade I take is a vote for the trader I'm becoming. That's powerful. That means every decision feeds your identity loop. So what are you voting for? Panic or structure? Now consider risk. A reinforcing loop says more size equals more gains, more status. But a balancing loop says too much size, emotional distress, underperformance. Your job is to observe which loop you're reinforcing. Then either break it or design a new one. You need to pre-wire your feedback. Create a plan not just for your trades, but for your mind. What do you do after a loss? After a win? After 3 days flat? Kiev pushed his traders to journal not just the market, but their mindsets. He knew feedback without structure is just noise. Here's a practical exercise. Create emotional SOPs, standard operating procedures. When X happens, I do Y. For example, after 3 losses, I take a 10-minute walk, re-rate my setups, and revisit my rules. That's a new loop, one you control. And remember, you don't remove feedback. You route it. You take that spike of frustration and you guide it into action, not reaction. You reassign emotional energy into productive loops. Meadows made it clear. Feedback loops shape the trajectory of complex systems. Your trading isn't about control, it's about guidance. You are not suppressing emotion. You are channeling it into better feedback structures. Kiev's traders didn't become robots. They became emotionally literate system designers. So the next time you feel a surge, fear, greed, frustration, don't shut it down. Ask, which loop is active? What belief is fueling it? What structure can I engage to reroute it? That's how systems traders evolve, not by avoiding the loops, but by mastering them. You're not just trading charts, you're navigating a complex adaptive system. That's what the market is, not a puzzle to solve, but an organism to adapt to. It learns, it evolves, it responds to your actions, and your survival doesn't come from prediction. It comes from understanding this complexity and embracing your role inside it. Donella Meadows called these systems nonlinear, dynamic, and self-organizing. And if you think about the stock market, that's exactly what you're in. It doesn't behave in straight lines. It doesn't follow neat cause and effect. News hits, reactions cascade, traders pile in, institutions rotate, and suddenly the entire structure morphs, not because of one variable, but because of interaction between dozens. If that's true, then trying to control or dominate the market is a losing battle. You're not a commander, you're a participant. The goal is not to outguess the system. It's to flow with it. That means awareness. That means responsiveness. That means letting go of the myth of certainty. The best traders don't look for perfect setups. They look for alignment, when structure, momentum, sentiment, and opportunity converge. But they know that edge is always temporary. That's what Kiev drilled into his traders. Performance is adaptation, not prediction. Your job is to remain aware of the environment and adjust without losing your core. Let's bring this home. Say the market's in a range. You're trying to short breakdowns and they keep reversing. You get frustrated. You think the market's wrong. But the truth is, you're trying to force a linear model into a nonlinear world. You didn't adapt to structure. You tried to impose expectation, and the system rejected it. That rejection isn't punishment. It's feedback. The market is telling you something. The environment changed. So must you. This is systems thinking applied in real time. Every day, the market teaches you what it is. Your job is to stop arguing and start observing. This is also why you can't copy other traders. Their model isn't yours. Their position in the system is different. Their capital, their psychology, their timing, all different. Trying to mirror someone else's trade is like plugging someone else's code into your machine. It breaks. You need a model that reflects how you interact with the system. This is why Kiev encouraged traders to develop individual trading scripts. Not just strategies, but personalized models, rules, intentions, mindsets that match their unique role in the system. That's how you survive complexity. You define your place in it, then adapt your behavior from there. Another example, you're in a fast-moving market. Momentum names are running. FOMO hits. You chase. You get wrecked. Why? Because the system evolved faster than your plan. Your structure couldn't handle the chaos. You didn't recalibrate your risk, widen your stops, reduce your size, or define a new trigger. The system adapted. You didn't. That's the real failure. Let's dig deeper. Complex systems have what Meadows called emergent behaviors, patterns that arise from the interaction of parts, not from any single component. So when a sector suddenly leads, or when volume spikes across multiple names, or when you feel something is shifting, that's emergence. You can't always quantify it, but you can recognize it if you're paying attention. This is where intuitive skill is born, not from gut feelings, but from deep immersion in the system. The more you study its feedback, the more fluent you become. That's why screen time matters. That's why review matters. That's why journaling works. It's not about collecting data. It's about evolving perception. And yet, don't forget the trap. Complex systems also produce noise, randomness, false patterns. If you overfit, you start seeing structure where there is none. So you need constraints, you need models, but they must remain flexible. Kiev's top traders operated with this duality, structured yet adaptable. They reviewed their performance daily, but with one goal: adapt their process to the market, not force the market to obey. That's the trader's dance. That's the system in action. So how do you use this today? Ask yourself, what's the structure of this market right now? Where am I within it? What has changed? What needs to shift in my behavior? These aren't tactical questions. They're systems questions. They elevate your thinking above entries and exits. They move you toward flow, because in a complex adaptive system, the edge isn't knowledge, it's adaptability. You win by evolving. You can't optimize what you don't map. If your trading feels chaotic, reactive, or inconsistent, it's not because you lack talent. It's because you haven't mapped the system. Systems thinkers like Donella Meadows knew that what isn't measured can't be managed, and top traders know what isn't mapped can't be improved. Let's be honest, most traders don't know their own process. They know their favorite setups, maybe a few rules of thumb, but they can't explain why they enter, how they size, when they exit, or how they recover. That's not strategy, that's winging it. And in a complex environment like the market, winging it guarantees drift. Mapping your trading system means documenting the entire pipeline, from thought to action to outcome. It means dissecting your decisions the way an engineer dissects a failed circuit. It means clarity over chaos. And that's the first real step to performance. Ari Kiev used to push his traders to write mental models for every phase of the day: open, midday, close, drawdown. Not just the trades, but their intentions, risks, mindset, behaviors. Why? Because he knew what you can see, you can shape. The moment your process becomes visual, it becomes designable. Start here. Draw a map, literally. Use pen and paper. What happens from the moment you wake up to the moment you close your last trade? Where are the decision points? Where are the emotion traps? Where do you deviate from plan? This is your trading system, exposed. Now go deeper. What inputs are you consuming? News, alerts, Twitter, Discord. What metrics are you tracking? Win rate, R multiple, expectancy. Are they reactive or predictive? Where does the data feed back into your process? If you can't answer, the loop is broken. Most traders get stuck in a pattern. Journal, reflect, repeat, without any structural change. Why? Because they don't map the whole system. They reflect on trades, not decision pathways. But performance isn't a product of trades. It's a product of systems. This is why Meadows highlighted leverage points in systems, places where small, smart adjustments create outsized impact. When you map your system, you find those points. Maybe it's a rule that prevents overtrading after 11:30 a.m. Maybe it's a micro journal that records emotion at entry. Maybe it's a 3-minute visualization before the open. Small hinges swing big doors. When you don't map, you're blind. You mislabel problems. You think your strategy failed, but it was your sizing model. You think your entry was poor, but it was your mindset from a personal stressor. Mapping connects the dots. It gives context. Here's an exercise from Kiev. After every trade, ask what system generated this trade. Don't judge it. Just map it. Was it triggered by a rule? By a bias? By a need to win back losses? Map the emotion. Map the setup. Map the conditions. Over time, patterns emerge, and with patterns, you get leverage. Think of athletes. Elite performers don't just train harder, they analyze every frame. They have coaches, data, feedback systems. Why should trading be different? It's one of the hardest games in the world. You need a map, and this map doesn't end with your strategy. It includes your energy levels, nutrition, sleep, recovery. Kiev's best traders treated themselves like peak athletes, not because it sounds cool, but because their systems depended on it. Your physiology is part of your performance map. Here's the ultimate truth. If you want to become consistent, your process must become visible. It must live outside your head. It must be documented, reviewed, updated. It must evolve as you evolve. That's what makes it a system. Meadows wrote, "A system is more than the sum of its parts. It is the product of its interactions." Your thoughts, your routines, your tools, they don't operate in isolation. They interact, and that interaction creates your equity curve. If your P&L is erratic, your system is erratic. Map it. If your risk is ballooning, your sizing rules are broken. Map it. If your confidence collapses on red days, your belief system is fragile. Map it. You are not guessing anymore. You're diagnosing. You're engineering. You're designing a better machine with every review, every question, every diagram. So grab a pen, pull out a whiteboard, map your system, because you cannot optimize what you don't map. Your real edge isn't your setup, it's your mental model. And if you've never consciously built one, you're likely operating on someone else's. Maybe your edge used to work. Maybe you had a hot streak. But if the results aren't consistent, the problem isn't the trade, it's the thinking behind it. Donella Meadows said that changing the paradigm, your worldview, is the most powerful lever in any system. Mental models are paradigms. They are the lenses through which you see every market movement, every candle, every result. And most traders, they're running outdated, distorted, or conflicting models. That's why performance breaks down under pressure. Ari Kiev's high-performance traders spent serious time rewriting their internal scripts. Not just affirmations, but belief audits. Because the wrong belief, left unchecked, spreads like a virus. I need to make back losses. I must be right. This stock owes me. These are not thoughts. These are systems-level bugs, ones that corrupt behavior across sessions. Let's unpack this. Suppose you enter a setup you've backtested 100 times. Clean, confirmed, risk managed. But the second it goes red, panic sets in. You doubt, you hesitate, you cut early. What just happened? The setup didn't fail. Your mental model did. Somewhere inside, a belief got triggered. Maybe fear of being wrong. Maybe an unconscious rule like red equals bad. That belief hijacked the trade. Or maybe you hold through pain because you trust the process. But the reality is, your model tells you that being right matters more than protecting capital. So you're not trusting process. You're gambling to protect ego. And ego is a mental model too. This is where systems thinking hits deep. If your beliefs shape your decisions and your decisions shape your outcomes, then your beliefs are your system code. Most traders try to change behavior without changing the belief underneath. That never works. The loop always reboots. Kiev taught his traders to track belief to behavior pathways. Example, I believe I have to trade every day leads to I overtrade on low probability setups. Change the belief and the behavior changes naturally. No force, no guilt, just new wiring. This is why so many traders yo-yo between discipline and destruction. They run on motivation, not mental models. They try to control outcomes without rewriting the rules driving those outcomes. But lasting change only happens when the internal model shifts. So how do you build a better mental model? Start with clarity. What do you actually believe about risk, profit, loss, execution, identity? Write it out. Don't filter it. Expose the operating code. Then interrogate each one. Is this true? Where did it come from? What does it cost me? This isn't therapy. This is engineering. Next, reconstruct. Build new beliefs deliberately. Losses are data, not danger. My job is execution, not prediction. Red candles don't threaten my identity. You don't just say these. You test them. You build experiences around them. That's how belief becomes structure. Now apply them. In the heat of the moment, your next loss, your next hesitation, pause and ask, what belief is active right now? That's awareness, and awareness creates choice. Suddenly, you're not reacting. You're rerouting. You're reprogramming the system in real time. Meadows would say you've just changed the paradigm. And that changes everything downstream. Kiev's elite traders weren't fearless. They were fluent in their beliefs. They rehearsed them, challenged them, rebuilt them constantly. Because they knew, under stress, you default to your deepest model. If it's weak, you collapse. If it's engineered, you execute. Even journaling becomes different now. You're not just logging what happened. You're reverse engineering why it happened. What belief drove that choice? What model reinforced that emotion? This is the shift from tracking trades to tuning systems. Let's make this real. Create a mental model map. Column 1, core beliefs. Column 2, behaviors those beliefs drive. Column 3, results those behaviors produce. Then redesign. Create new belief behavior result chains. Print it, post it, review it daily. Because your mind is the first trading system you ever built, and it might just be your most powerful edge. You don't build high performance by trying harder. You build it by engineering habits that enforce consistency whether you feel like it or not. In systems thinking, structure determines behavior, and in trading, structure determines discipline. Want to be consistent? Then build a structure that forces it. This is where Ari Kiev was ruthless. He didn't want motivation. He wanted mechanics. His traders had protocols, schedules, checklists, reviews, scripts, every component of their day built for performance. Because willpower fails under stress. Systems don't. Most traders rely on emotion. I feel good today, so I'll follow the plan. That's a disaster waiting to happen. You need a structure that functions on bad days, that holds you together when the P&L is down, when the market is slow, when the trade goes red. That's the only kind of discipline that works. Engineered discipline. Donella Meadows would call this creating positive structure. A system designed so the right behavior is the easiest behavior. In trading, that means designing your environment, habits, and workflows so that consistency is the default. Let's break this down. What does a high-performance trading structure look like? Start with environment. Where do you trade? Is it clean, organized, optimized for focus? Or is it noisy, reactive, full of distractions? Kiev's traders treated their workspace like a cockpit, everything in its place, prepped for battle. Your setup affects your state, and your state drives execution. Next, routines. What's your pre-market flow? Do you scan aimlessly? Or do you follow a checklist? Market overview, sector analysis, top gap or review, emotional calibration? Structure isn't restrictive, it's liberating. It frees your mind to focus on execution, not decision fatigue. Now the big one, behavior protocols. What do you do after a loss? A win? A missed setup? If you don't know, you're guessing. And guessing under pressure leads to emotional reaction. Instead, build if-then rules. If I lose 2 trades, I pause for 15 minutes and journal. If I break a rule, I log it and review my risk model. This creates predictability. Predictability creates control. Kiev had his traders script their day before it happened. Literally right. If the market is trending, I will look for continuation setups. If it's choppy, I will scale down and avoid breakout traps. Why? Because structure reduces emotional hijack. It's not about reacting, it's about running a plan. But it's not just the daily structure, it's the meta structure. Weekly reviews, monthly goal resets, quarterly strategy sessions. High performers zoom out. They don't just trade, they manage their growth. They become CEOs of their trading business, and this matters. Because trading isn't about one day, it's about repeatability. Anyone can follow rules when it's easy, but structure guarantees performance when it's not. Here's a secret, even pros hate journaling. Even they want to skip prep. That's why they build frictionless systems, templates, triggers, alarms, accountability partners. Because they know performance isn't magic, it's engineered through habits. Don't just plan your trades, plan your behaviors. Create automated check-ins, review sessions, visual dashboards. Use technology to reduce decision load. Make structure easy, obvious, and repeatable. Now let's talk about energy. High performance isn't just focus, it's fuel. Kiev's traders tracked sleep, nutrition, mental clarity. Why? Because every decision costs energy. And when your system runs on low power, it malfunctions. You can't build elite habits on a burned-out engine. So recharge becomes part of the system. Recovery is structure. Downtime is strategic. If you grind every day without pause, you're sabotaging your future edge. Structure includes breaks, resets, mindset work. That's what separates a grinder from a performer. Remember Meadows' core truth. Structure drives behavior. So if you want better behavior, stop trying harder. Start building better structure. Not just rules, but rituals. Not just plans, but protocols. Not just motivation, but mechanics. Every habit you automate frees your mind for higher level performance. Every structural rule reduces emotional volatility. Every check-in closes the feedback loop. That's not control. That's freedom. You don't need more willpower. You need better structure. Pressure. Every trader feels it. The spike of adrenaline as your position swings, the racing heart when price hits your stop, the burning urge to jump back in after a big loss. This is where your mindset is truly tested, not in the calm, but in the chaos. Carol Dweck's Mindset, The New Psychology of Success, dives deep into how our core beliefs determine our behavior when the stakes are highest. In trading, your reaction under pressure is the most honest reflection of your mindset, and often your greatest opportunity for transformation. Dweck writes, "When people already know they're deficient, they have nothing to lose by trying." In other words, those with a growth mindset don't avoid high-pressure situations. They lean into them, seeing them as the ultimate chance to test and stretch their skills. Traders with a fixed mindset, on the other hand, become brittle. They panic when things go wrong, double down to save face, or freeze up, paralyzed by the fear of being exposed as not good enough. You've probably felt it, the urge to revenge trade after a bad beat, the temptation to hold losers past your stop out of sheer stubbornness, the pull of FOMO when everyone else seems to be printing money except you. The fixed mindset whispers, if you blow this, you're a failure. That voice drives impulsive decisions and emotional sabotage. Dweck's research shows that under pressure, fixed-minded individuals seek to protect their ego, avoiding risk, hiding mistakes, or blaming external factors for their losses. In trading, this means abandoning your plan when it matters most. Mark Douglas warned that the market will always test your discipline. It's not just about strategy, but the ability to remain committed when your emotions scream for relief. But growth-minded traders behave differently. They see pressure as a proving ground, a way to find out what they're truly made of. Dweck describes students who thrived on challenge and persist even in the face of failure. The growth mindset trader, when faced with tilt or FOMO, pauses and asks, what am I feeling? What is this moment here to teach me? Instead of reacting impulsively, they reflect, adapt, and recommit to process. Jared Tendler notes, emotions are not the enemy, avoidance is. A growth mindset accepts discomfort, learns from it, and turns it into fuel for improvement. You can see this in elite trading teams. At SMB Capital, traders are trained to recognize their emotional states and have protocols for moments of stress. Stepping away from the screen, journaling immediate reactions, even calling a teammate to talk through the urge to tilt. Brett Steenbarger calls this psychological flexibility, the ability to observe your thoughts and feelings without letting them dictate your actions. It's the practice of staying present and curious, not panicked and reactive. Let's bring it home. The next time you feel pressure, the heat of a losing streak, the anxiety before a big trade, the desperation after a painful mistake, stop and check your mindset. Are you defending your ego or defending your process? Are you using pressure as proof you can't handle trading, or as evidence you're still learning and growing? Dweck's message is clear. The passion for stretching yourself and sticking to it, even or especially when it's not going well, is the hallmark of the growth mindset. Here's your practice. Welcome pressure. When the market puts you on the spot, lean in. Observe your urges. Name your emotions. Pause, breathe, and ask, what is the market showing me about myself right now? The more you face pressure with curiosity and courage, the stronger and more flexible you become. You don't become a better trader in comfort. You become one when you embrace the fire of real-time challenge and turn it into your advantage. Markets don't punish you. They test the strength of your internal system. The instability you feel during volatility, drawdowns, reversals, that's not chaos. That's the system asking a question. Are you ready to evolve, or will you revert? Donella Meadows explained that systems naturally oscillate when pushed, especially when they're growing or transforming. In other words, instability is part of development. Yet in trading, we treat instability like failure. You lose a trade, you doubt the plan. You have a red week, you question the edge. But what if that turbulence isn't a sign something's wrong, but a signal that something's changing? Ari Kiev saw this over and over. His top traders would go through chaotic periods, erratic performance, shaken confidence, inconsistent execution. Most would label it burnout. But Kiev didn't rush to fix them. He'd ask, what's your current challenge? What are you growing into? Because often, the instability was the system rebalancing itself, stretching toward a new level of performance. Let's break this down. Say you've recently added a new risk model. More sizing discipline, better stops. You expect things to get smoother, but they don't. Instead, your win rate dips. You hesitate more. You miss opportunities. You feel like you're regressing. What's really happening? Your system is experiencing a destabilization phase, a recalibration. The new inputs, risk control, are clashing with the old behaviors, impulse entries. The friction feels like chaos, but it's not. It's transition. You are reprogramming the structure. Meadows warned about this too. Systems resist change. They seek homeostasis, even if that old equilibrium is destructive. So when you try to install new structure, like discipline, patience, process, the system fights back. It throws you off balance. It generates stress signals. Not to punish, but to stabilize itself. The only way through is to lean into the discomfort and let the new structure settle in. This is where most traders blow up, not because of markets, but because they misread the instability. They think, I'm broken, but in reality, they're upgrading. And like any system, upgrades don't happen in peace, they happen in stress. This is the principle of dynamic equilibrium. The market's always moving. Your structure must adjust without collapsing. Kiev's traders trained for this. They practiced trading under tension. They rehearsed chaos. Why? Because they knew that the more instability you can hold without losing form, the more edge you retain when others crack. So how do you train for instability? First, expect it. Make peace with it. Put it in your plan. When I upgrade my process, there will be pushback. When I shift my strategy, my confidence will dip. Write it down. Say it out loud. Normalize the shake. Next, track the instability. Don't run from it. Journal your energy, confidence, decisions, P&L, and mindset during volatile periods. Look for patterns. Find out where your system wobbles. Is it during fast price action? After losses? At the open? This is diagnostic data. It tells you what part of your system needs reinforcement. Now, reinforce with structure. Add a rule. In chaotic markets, reduce size by 50%. Or, if confidence drops below a 5, I switch to simulation mode for 1 hour. These aren't restrictions. They're stability controls, shock absorbers, for a system under pressure. And here's a mindset shift. Instability isn't a break in your edge. It's a spotlight on your weakest link. The market is showing you where you haven't upgraded yet. That's a gift. That's a path. Kiev said this clearly. Every breakdown is a breakthrough waiting to be designed. So when you feel yourself breaking, missing trades, forcing setups, spiraling mentally, don't escape. Analyze. Document. Rebuild. You're not failing. You're being forged. One more thing. Instability in trading isn't just personal. It's systemic. Sector rotation, liquidity crunches, volatility surges, these are environmental shifts. Systems thinking means stepping back and asking, what broader system is shifting, and how can I realign without losing integrity? That's the art of the adaptive trader. Holding your structure while adjusting your methods. Staying grounded while the environment shifts. That's what Kiev meant by resilience. And that's what Meadows meant by systems evolution. So the next time your trading feels chaotic, your process shaky, your results inconsistent, pause. Step back. You're not breaking, you're adjusting. That instability is feedback. Now it's your turn to upgrade. Feedback loops run everything. In your trading system, in your mindset, in your outcomes. What gets reinforced gets repeated. But here's the trap. Not all feedback is useful. And if you don't design your loops, you're likely reinforcing failure without even realizing it. Donella Meadows was clear. Systems run on feedback. Positive feedback accelerates change. Negative feedback stabilizes. But both can be destructive when misaligned. You win big on a sloppy setup? That's positive feedback for bad behavior. You lose money following your rules? That's negative feedback against discipline. Left unmanaged, both distort your trajectory. Ari Kiev's elite traders didn't just track performance, they tracked reinforcement. Because they knew that behavior follows rewards, not consciously, but neurologically. The brain doesn't care if a win came from a good process or bad impulse. It remembers pleasure. And if you don't interrupt that loop, the system learns the wrong lesson. Let's bring this home. You take an oversized trade outside your plan. It works. You make 3R. Feels great. You celebrate. What just happened? Your internal loop just embedded the idea. Breaking rules equals success. Now, next time you're on tilt, your system will trigger that same play. Not because you're weak, but because the feedback taught it to. This is why reflection isn't enough. You have to correct the loop. And correction means creating counter feedback. Log that rule break. Label it a failure, not a success. Write a cost-benefit note. Create emotional friction around the mistake. That's how you deprogram the behavior. Same goes for red trades that followed your system perfectly. You sized right, waited for the setup, executed cleanly, and still lost. That's a success. But your brain says this sucks, so you hesitate next time. Why? Because the loop is misaligned. Your structure punished good behavior, so now you fear following your own rules. Fix it. Rewire the loop. Celebrate that loss. Log it as a system win. Reward yourself mentally, emotionally, even physically. Why? Because reinforcement works both ways. You can use it to strengthen discipline, if you're intentional. Kiev used self-tagging for this. Traders would write post-trade labels: impulse win, system loss, emotional entry, disciplined exit. Why? To build awareness. Awareness disrupts the unconscious loop. Tagging behavior changes it. Now zoom out. What are your macro feedback loops? Do you review only P&L or also process? Do you reward green days or consistent behaviors? Does your community reinforce risk-taking or patience? These are system loops, and they compound. The feedback you get daily becomes the trader you become monthly. If your reinforcement structure is broken, your development will stall, even regress. Meadows pointed this out. When systems reinforce the wrong outputs, they become unstable. They overcorrect. Traders do the same. They make a mistake, overcorrect with perfectionism, burn out, then crash back into bad habits. That's a broken loop. You need stabilizers: journaling, accountability, feedback from mentors, visualization, emotional resets. These don't fix outcomes, they fix loops. Anchor your behavior to truth, not to outcome. And feedback isn't just post-trade, it's in-trade. Body language, heart rate, breathing, self-talk. These are real-time signals. If your pulse spikes before entry, why? What loop is firing? If your thoughts spiral after a loss, what belief is echoing? Every signal is data, and data creates loops. Build conscious feedback systems, after-action reviews, weekly behavioral audits, risk report cards, performance flags. These aren't chores, they're calibration tools. They close the gap between what you did and what you meant to do. Kiev said it best: what you reinforce becomes your identity. So what identity are you building? Every celebration, every review, every reaction, it teaches your system. So stop judging trades as good or bad based on outcome. Judge the behavior, reward what aligns, discard what doesn't. This is how feedback becomes fuel. You don't need more wins, you need cleaner loops. Because feedback is not just information, it's transformation. Every trading decision you make, every hesitation, every click of the button, it all stems from one thing: your system identity. Not just what you trade, but who you believe you are as a trader. And if you haven't designed that identity with intent, you're reacting from old scripts. Donella Meadows placed identity at the very top of system leverage. Paradigms shape goals, which shape rules, which shape structure, which shape behavior. Identity isn't downstream of behavior, it's the source. Ari Kiev echoed this. Traders perform in alignment with their self-concept. In other words, you'll always default to who you think you are. Think about it. If you believe you're a breakout trader, you'll look for breakouts, even in range-bound markets. If you believe you're inconsistent, you'll sabotage consistency to stay congruent. If you believe trading is hard, you'll unconsciously make it harder. You're not being irrational, you're being loyal to your identity. This is why change is so difficult, because changing habits without changing identity creates internal conflict. You try to be disciplined, but you still identify as someone who struggles with discipline. So the system rejects the upgrade. You relapse. Kiev coached identity consciously. His traders didn't just optimize execution, they rewrote their self-image. I am a professional decision maker. I am a risk manager, not a profit chaser. I am consistent, regardless of outcome. These weren't affirmations, they were system commands. This is deep work, and it begins with noticing. Who do you believe you are in the market? What story do you tell yourself after a loss? What label do you wear when things go wrong? These stories become blueprints. They guide behavior without your consent. Systems thinking teaches us that structure follows purpose. So if you haven't defined your purpose as a trader, your role, your mission, your values, then your system is vulnerable. You'll drift. You'll copy others. You'll adapt unconsciously. And worst of all, you'll rationalize it. So define it. Who are you? What kind of trader are you building? Write it out. Make it clear. Not just your strategy, but your standards, your code. Kiev had traders write trading constitutions, one page, core principles, identity statements, behavior contracts. Read daily. This becomes your root system. The deeper it goes, the less you get shaken by wind and weather. Your identity becomes your anchor. Let's make this tactical. Create 3 identity levels. 1. Situational identity. What do I do when under pressure? 2. Behavioral identity. What patterns do I reinforce daily? 3. Core identity. What kind of trader am I becoming? Now, audit them. Do they align, or do they contradict each other? For example, If your core says I'm a structured trader, but your behavior shows inconsistent journaling and random size changes, then the identity is theoretical, not real. That dissonance creates system noise. You lose confidence, not because the market changed, but because your internal structure did. Fix it through alignment. Behavior must validate identity, and identity must guide behavior. You don't fake it until you make it. You define it until you align with it. Another trick? Use identity triggers. Before each session, say, I am a rule-based trader. I follow my plan no matter the emotion. This primes the nervous system. It sets the standard. And when chaos hits, the system defaults to identity, not impulse. Kiev even used physical anchors, certain clothes, certain posture, certain prep rituals. Why? Because embodiment matters. You don't just think identity, you live it. And when setbacks hit, when your edge fails, when you hesitate mid-trade, go back to identity. Ask, what would the trader I'm becoming do right now? Then do it. Behavior shapes belief, and belief shapes systems, because systems thinking always loops back to source. And in trading, you are the source. You're not a victim of market randomness. You're the architect of your structure. So build it with precision. Build it with clarity. Build it with identity, because your greatest edge isn't your tools, your setup, or your mentor. It's your belief in who you are. And now, it's time to become that trader. So what have you learned? Across 10 sections, you've explored the psychological, behavioral, and structural foundations of trading, from systems thinking to habit design, from identity engineering to feedback mastery. Donella Meadows gave you the lens to see your trading as a living, breathing system. Ari Kiev gave you the tools to build that system into a high-performance machine. You've learned that discipline isn't about grit, it's about structure. That emotional control isn't about suppression, it's about feedback. That setbacks aren't failures, they're signals. That every hesitation, every impulse, every outcome is a result of system mechanics, not personal flaws. And above all, you've seen that successful traders don't operate from luck or instinct. They operate from alignment. Structure, identity, behavior, all fused. So what now? Go back. Rewatch the parts that hit you hardest. Start with your weakest link. Maybe it's your morning structure, your self-image, or your feedback loops. Apply one insight, then another. Don't wait to feel ready. Build the system that makes you ready. If this opened your eyes, like, comment, and subscribe. Share it with another trader stuck in the spiral. Let them see what's possible when you stop reacting and start designing. Your future edge isn't technical, it's structural. Now go design it.